It's not? Ah, okay, but I'm hearing it. Okay, I'll see it.
I think you are not sharing the sound of your system.
Ah, okay. Okay, so, uh, sound, sound, share, so, uh, okay, share, share, okay, share sound.
It's up now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can get started now. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm so excited for another opportunity for us to meet together and also to share together so that we can keep ourselves up to date in the field of AI and analytics. So I want to welcome every one of us. So in today's sessions, we have one of the leader in the field, Mr. Harry Madusha. He will be speaking to us today on who is watching the watchers, and he will be talking on AI governance through the lens of privacy, because this is very, very key, especially in organization. So when we are building machine learning model, we are building AI systems, we have to ensure that we are doing it correctly. It has to comply with a lot of rules and standards set by organization. So I will want us to take note as we go through the session today. If there's any questions that you have, please feel free to post it in the comment, or after the presentation, please feel free to ask any questions that relates to what our speaker today is speaking about. So without further ado, I will introduce our brother, Mr. Harry Madusha, to take over and do the presentation for us today. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the group and just share my little experience. So I will share my screen now and we'll take it up from there. So can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see us.
Okay. Thank you so much. So if you see me move my head, I have three monitors, so I'm just trying to gig. So it's not like I'm distracted. I'm just trying to move to the screen that I'm talking about. And I hope that it will be an interesting class. My name is Harry Madusha. I've been doing IT for years. Right now, I manage a team in the government of Canada where we develop AI solutions, but not just developing AI solutions, they're developing it in an ethical way and ensuring that we follow the rules so that we get responsible AI that offers value to our business stakeholders. Yeah, so that's brief about me. And I think I would just want to dive straight into my presentation. And I will be talking about why governance matters. Why is it important to have governance or ML governance or AI governance? So I know a lot of you have heard about AI governance, but it's not just a buzzword. Um, it's something that is urgent, especially with the speed of AI development and the way AI is scaling up. So it's not just something futuristic, it is here to stay. AI governance is here to stay. And it's here because we need a way to, it's reshaping our industries like healthcare, where we are diagnosing diseases. I mean, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is used in finance. Artificial intelligence is also used in predicting market trends. So in the healthcare is there, finance is there, education is there. It's just pervasive. It's in almost every sphere of our life. And that is, it's a very powerful tool. And for those that are building AI systems, the data scientists here, the data engineers here, you know that AI's power comes from data. It works with massive data sets. And these data sets are the ones that are fueling, and these data sets are the things that are fueling the AI solutions that we have. So and if we do AI well, then we can begin to drive insights and get benefits. So, but the other thing is that most of the data that we use for AI is often personal data and they are sensitive data. So remember I said that AI is data is the lifeblood of artificial intelligence systems. But these are not just arbitrary data somewhere. That data or the data is linked to people's personal and sensitive information. And this is where privacy comes into it. Because AI relies heavily on data, um, we just have to find a way to ensure that the data we are using, we've gotten the right permissions to use the data, we've put the right um, privacy enhancing techniques to ensure that we either mask people's personal information, or else your organization could suffer a reputational damage by getting a lawsuit, and nobody wants that because at the end of the day, that costs a lot of money. And we're going to talk about an organization that is having problem with the Canadian government right now. In short, they had to pack shop. They had to close their company in Canada just to be able to escape from the heavy
Wow.
penalties that they will face.
Wow.
And now they are in the US. I heard as at yesterday, their CEO just resigned because of privacy issues.
Wow.
So in the world we are living in, it is very, very critical. Privacy challenges are very important. So, like I said, data is the lifeblood of an AI system. If we use data right, it brings strength. But if it is used without consideration to the appropriate guardrails, It could create ethical and privacy issues. And you can see from what I'm showing now, artificial intelligence systems rely on data. If we do it right, if we use data in the right way, of course, that's a strength. If we put in robust privacy mechanisms, it's a strength to our AI systems. But if we have privacy challenges and we are not fixing them, that brings a vulnerability, that brings loss of trust, it doesn't enable transparency. And at the end of the day, the reason why we are in business is to satisfy our customers. And if our customers are scared of the solution we are bringing, it will cause financial loss and it also cause reputational damage to our organizations. And that is why privacy is important. So every time an AI model processes personal information, there's always a risk of exposure. There's a risk of bias. There's a risk that the AI model is making decisions without getting people's full consent, or people are not even aware of how that solution is coming about its results. So as professionals, when we are managing these systems, we need to think of how we are managing the data. If you're a business analyst, are you assessing the risk and the rewards of the techniques or the way data is being managed? If you are a data scientist, are you training the model in a way that protects customers' privacy? When you are designing whatever technique you are using to design, are you putting privacy into consideration? And it brings me to that question from the title of what my presentation today: who is watching the watchers? Who is watching? In a world where AI is making more decisions for us every day, decisions we don't always see and we don't even understand, who ensures that this system operates ethically and respects our privacy? This is what I hope to unpack today. I hope that we can explore governance frameworks that are rooted in privacy, and we are able to answer this question, this big elephant in the room that nobody wants to address. So I don't know if there's anybody that has encountered privacy issues in the AI projects that you are working on, and if you have, then I'm sure you understand the value of what we are talking about. But let's move to the next slide and let's talk about the data privacy connection. Now, you get data. That data, you are supposed to run it through some privacy enhancing techniques. Then after running that data through some privacy enhancing techniques, like you can see on the screen, you now feed this data that has been enhanced, this data that the privacy has been, you have applied privacy into, you now feed that into your ML system. You shouldn't just take raw data and just throw into the ML solution. There's a risk to that. Now, like I said, AI cannot function without data. And there are massive data sets that we use to train AI. And these data sets help us and we can also refine our predictions and power innovation. And for this data, we are talking about terabytes of information that we often pull from different sources. Sometimes those sources are people's health records. Sometimes it is people's faces. Sometimes it is their shopping habits. Sometimes it is their financial history. All this data is used to fuel AI that transform it into something that is beneficial. But the tricky part is that that same data, like I said, is private to people. So on one side, we have AI development. On the other side, we have AI development that is developing smart tools, smart machines, smart system, faster systems. On the other end, we have privacy. What happens when this data is not handled with care? First, there's a risk of exposure. If an AI system isn't secure, personal information can leak. And like I said, I will show you an example of a company that is in big problem right now because of privacy concerns. They have left Canada, they are in the US, but their CEO just resigned yesterday. Secondly, there's bias, the problem of bias. If the data we feed into our model is skewed, the output will definitely be unfair to certain groups.
Yeah.
And this is somewhere where analysts, and this is a place where analysts come in with the task of spotting and mitigating such scenarios. Thirdly, transparency. We can avoid making opaque decisions. How many times have you heard that the AI system decided this, but we don't know how? Because it's a black box. No, we really cannot even explain. Now, I know, like using Sharp 4, there are new technologies that are coming up to help us explain, but sometimes the customer just wants to know, how did you flag me as somebody that will default in paying my tax? If the customer takes you to court, the court will require that you provide reasons. So if there's lack of transparency, we can erode trust and leave our customers in the dark about how the decisions we are making is impacting their lives. So responsible AI isn't just about building the best and the fastest model or hitting performance metrics. It is about embedding robust privacy practices into every step of developing the model. If you are a data scientist, it might mean you need to anonymize the data sets. It might mean you need to question the ethics of what you are training on. If you're an IT professional, you need to secure the infrastructure. If you're a business analyst, you need to ensure that the organization's AI strategy or this project's AI strategy aligns with privacy expectations. So whoever you are in an AI project, you have a part to play. Because if you don't play that part, the consequences could be legal, the consequences could be financial, and the consequences could be reputational damage. And nobody really wants that. So there are a lot of words I know I've thrown around. One of them is responsible AI. What is responsible AI? Gartner defines responsible AI as an umbrella term for aspects of making appropriate business and ethical choices when adopting AI. This includes business and societal value, risk, trust, transparency, fairness, bias mitigation, explainability, sustainability, accountability, privacy, and regulatory compliance. Now, how does Gartner also define privacy? Privacy focuses on establishing accountability, transparency, purposeful processing, and controls to reduce confidentiality and compliance risk when it relates to the customer's personal data. AI systems risk exposing personal information. They risk generating bias if we do not put the right privacy technique in place or privacy process. Privacy isn't optional. It is foundational. It should be foundational. And that's what we will explore as we look at some of the privacy laws in Canada. Now, because I'm in Canada, I wanted to just throw, the US has its own, but I just wanted to just talk about some of the privacy laws that we have in Canada. In 2000, the year 2000, we had a law called PIPEDA. The Canadian government, this is the first major privacy law that the Canadian government enacted. So they thought about it. By 2004, the government approved it and said, yes, every organization is required to follow the privacy protection rules. And PIPEDA requires AI systems to handle personal data responsibly. But the problem with PIPEDA is that it does not specifically talk about AI. It was a very general, you looked at data from a general perspective. It wasn't focused on AI, and it was not addressing AI governance. So the government needed to move a step higher. So because PIPEDA was not handling AI-specific risks, such as automated decision-making, bias, and algorithmic transparency, there was a need to develop a stronger AI governance. And this led to another law, which has not yet been enacted, is called the Bill C-27. It was proposed. And Bill C-27 was introduced in June 2022. Another name for Bill C-27 is the Digital Charter Implementation Act. It aims to replace PIPEDA with new privacy law and introduce specific AI regulations, which PIPEDA did not have. This bill is still under discussion and it has not yet become law. It was supposed to, based from last year, was supposed to be approved in January. But the Canadian government, because of elections, so many things have been happening, so it has not yet been approved. So the key components of this Bill C-27 is number one, Consumer Privacy Protection Act. And that replaces PIPEDA and it will strengthen privacy rights. There's another part of Bill C-27, that is IDA. IDA is the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act. And this introduces AI-specific governance requirements by law when it's approved. So the Privacy Commissioner will have stronger authority to audit AI systems and impose penalties. Okay, how is Bill C-27 related to AI? Organizations must ensure that personal data used in AI systems are fully protected. Organizations must demonstrate transparency in AI decision making. They must enforce stronger mechanisms, including fines for non-compliance. Let's go to the next slide. So for HIDA, which is Artificial Intelligence and Data Act, like I said, it was introduced in 2022, and it focuses on high impact systems, meaning AI that affect human rights, employment. Maybe you have an AI system that that can be used to screen potential employees of an organization. That's an high impact system. AI systems that affect financial decisions, AI systems that affect personal safety. And I could also say that impacts people's health record. Now, what are the key requirements under IDA? AI developers must conduct risk assessment and ensure that AI models are transparent and fair. Organizations must document how AI is mitigating bias. You must document it for your projects. Now it's becoming a regulatory issue. Companies using AI must provide clear explanation of automated decision making. And that's where transparency comes in and explainability. Like I said, we're having tools now that can even explain the black box concept, of AI solutions. Regulators will have the authority to audit AI systems and issue penalties. IDA ensures that AI systems are accountable, fair, and they do not cause harm. And AI developers and organizations must prove compliance. So I just wanted to show the various privacy regulations and how they are evolving in Canada. Now, let's look at some privacy enhancing techniques. And what are they? They are methods that are designed to protect personal data while still enabling useful data processing and analysis. These techniques help organizations to comply with privacy regulations like PIPEDA, that is currently in use in Canada, like CPPA that we just reviewed, and even Bill C-27 that will soon be enacted as law. And this just helps to reduce the risk of data breaches and re-identification. Now, privacy enhancing techniques are called PEPs, and they help to reduce privacy risk while enabling data-driven innovations. Organizations must choose the right PET or privacy enhancing technique for their project. Now, let's look at a couple of them here. The first one that I have on my screen is anonymization. What is anonymization? It is just removing personal data to prevent re-identification. If there's a marker on your data set that identifies people, that links to people, taking all that out, that's anonymization. The second one, and an example of it is maybe you do some data masking or you do some form of data aggregation, and maybe you are working in a research company or maybe you are working in education. It's important that you take out some of these identifications by using anonymization, if that's the best technique. Now, if you do your if poor anonymization can lead to the anonymization attacks. If you don't do it well, you could get attacks at the end of the day. So it needs to be done properly. Now, is it possible to completely anonymize data? I don't know. I sincerely don't know, because you have people every day that will find a way to link that data to something, so it's just anonymization is really very difficult. I think that's just the conclusion. And because if you anonymize, sometimes the data becomes irrelevant, but still you must attempt to anonymize if that's the best way to do it, or use another privacy enhancing technique. Another one is pseudonymization. And what that does is that you replace personal identifiers with pseudonyms. So let's say, for instance, you have gender or you have people's name. You replace it with something else that is not related to that particular person. So you can use hashing, you can use encryption, you can use tokens to do that. But the risk is that, what if somebody is able to get that key that you created, or whatever you created, how you removed it, what if somebody is able to redo it back? If they are able to put it back, at the end of the day, people can identify your customers from the data set. The next one is differential privacy. And they use differential privacy mainly for when you are looking at images. So it is just adding controlled noise to the data set to prevent individual data points from being identified. Apple uses differential privacy in their iPhone data collection. Also, there's federated learning. And federated learning is when you are training your AI models on local devices. So your training is decentralized. So your training is done maybe on the mobile phone, while server collects information on the end result of the training. Training is not really done in server. So data is not going into the server. It's just the end result that is getting into the server. And Google uses this a lot, where they can train data on customers' individual devices without transferring the data to central servers. And the last is homomorphic encryption. And this allows computations on encrypted data without necessarily decrypting the data. So you can take encrypted data and you can still run training on it. So that way you are still preserving privacy. So there are lots of other privacy enhancing techniques. I'm not intending to go through all that. I just wanted to show us a few of them. So how do we integrate privacy into the development of our models? We can do it by something called privacy by design. And it is critical because it helps us to apply privacy to each step of developing our model. And here I just gave like a waterfall flow of how to develop a model. You do your planning and analysis and data analysis, then you move on to your model development, and then you move on to your validation and testing, then deployment and monitoring. Privacy by design is data privacy at each step of developing the model, not just when it is in production. So, and this is an interdisciplinary collaboration between data engineers, business analysts, project managers, data scientists, business, and also legal. Privacy is not just something you need to track at the end of the project. No, no, no. You have to bake privacy into the DNA of your AI systems. And you can do that right from planning up to monitoring in production. So look at the diagram and you will see that at the center of developing models is data privacy. So in planning and analysis, I'll just run through it just very fast. In planning and analysis, we are asking, what are we asking? What data do we really need? How do we protect this data from day to day? For data engineers, it might mean choosing a privacy enhancing technique like I showed you earlier. So in your planning, you need to think ahead of time. How do we protect privacy? Don't just do it during development, plan it out. For model development, data engineers that are building pipelines, are you sure that your pipelines are not leaking data? So data engineers need to think about, you have a pipeline, fine, you've created a superb pipeline, but are you sure that it is secure? Are those pipelines secure? In validation and testing, the business analyst and the data scientist can check that the system aligns with the compliance and privacy requirements that was documented in planning. And then the model is deployed if testing passes. In monitoring, we need to continue asking, is this still safe? Is the system still safe as we continue to use it? So one person cannot do privacy by design. It has to be multifunctional. It has to be interdisciplinary effort. The engineers are doing their work, the pipeline engineers, the data scientists are doing their work, the legal team, the business analysts, the project managers, they are all doing their part. Imagine you launch an AI system without thinking about privacy until someone flags that there's a problem. If a customer flags that there's a problem, then that is not the right time. Why? Because you are going to get into big problems. You are either going to get a penalty or you are going to get reputational damage and people will not use your product. And I will show you a company like that. What is the cost of not doing privacy by design? Number one, legal fines. Number two, loss of trust. Your customers lose trust in you. So privacy by design isn't just a best practice. It is a lifeline to safeguard your organization and even safeguard your job. So it brings me back to the question that I asked when I started. Who is watching the watchers? The person watching the watchers is you and I. It's everybody's responsibility. It's not just one person's responsibility. It is all our responsibility to watch each other's back by building right from ground up, building privacy right from ground up. So now let's look at privacy. This is more waterfall, but let's look at privacy by design when it comes to agile. Because a lot of organizations are going agile now. So what if we are doing a couple of trainings to get our minimum viable products, but those minimum viable products are not necessarily going to production yet until we've done several iterations of training. How do we apply privacy techniques to an agile methodology? So agile development is widely used when we are doing software engineering approach. So agile is just another way of developing softwares iteratively. How is that different from waterfall? Waterfall is more plan focused. You plan everything ahead of time. In agile is more change focused. So, but that's not why I'm here. I don't want to delve into that because that would be a big distraction. So agile development is widely used, like I said, and this approach emphasizes iterative process, continuous feedback, cross-functional collaboration. In AI development, agile means building models in short cycles called sprints. And you see it here, sprints. We develop in short models called sprints. And we test them frequently. We refine the models using real-world data, and also we get customer input. This approach allows organizations to detect and address privacy risk early because we are developing in iterations rather than waiting for final deployment before we start checking that. So let me go back. I'm not done. So how do we apply privacy when we are developing agile environment? Number one, embed privacy into your user stories. In your product backlog contains prioritized user stories. And that is usually managed by the product owner. But make sure that the user stories that you write have privacy embedded inside of them. And also in your sprint planning, don't forget privacy. Remember that privacy is a functional requirement, and it should be embedded into every AI project. Teams should include privacy considerations when writing their user stories, not just the user story, the acceptance criteria and the sprint goals. Example, instead of saying, as a data scientist, I want to access user data for training models, I would suggest you reframe that story and say, a data scientist, I want to access anonymized and consented user data to ensure privacy compliance. You can see that those two user stories, they are saying the same thing, but they are different. One is saying, as a data scientist, I want to access user data to train my models. But I'm saying don't do that. Insert privacy into it. So you can say, as a data scientist, I want to access anonymized and consented user data to ensure privacy compliance. So factor in privacy into the way you write your user stories. Secondly, data minimization. Agile teams should apply techniques like data minimization, encryption in every sprint. For example, instead of collecting and storing the entire user profiles, apply techniques like differential privacy or federated learning to limit unnecessary data exposure. So you don't need all the data to do all your work. If you don't, then why get all the data? If you don't need all the data in your server to do your training, why not do federated learning, where the training is done remotely on devices and not on the server? Number three, do regular privacy audit and compliance check. Each sprint, if possible, should have a privacy risk assessment to evaluate how AI models are handling personal data. Organizations should establish privacy checkpoints in their agile workflow so that you ensure compliance to government regulations. In Canada, we have an office called the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada. He was the one that found the organization I told you that left Canada. They recommend that companies conduct something called a privacy impact assessment throughout the AI development to identify risk. I don't know how many of us do privacy impact assessments, but I think it is necessary. Then the last thing is just make sure that there is interdisciplinary collaboration. Collaborate with all your teams. Now, this company called Clearview AI, you can type the name on Google. They're a company that was scraping billions of online images to create a facial recognition technology. The problem is that they never got individuals' consent. So the privacy regulators in Canada ruled that Clearview AI violated PIPEDA. Remember I told you about PIPEDA earlier. By failing to obtain proper consent and not implementing sufficient privacy guidelines. This could have been avoided if privacy was integrated into their AI development process, like I showed you earlier, and that they ensured continuous compliance checks. Why is this necessary? It will help us detect early if there are privacy issues. It will make sure that privacy issues are detected early before they escalate into major problems like Clearview AI is going through. It will also ensure that we comply with regulation, ensuring that we align with PIPEDA and also the other upcoming laws for Canada, for your country or wherever country that you belong to. It also helps us to improve trust and transparency, ensures that our AI systems respect user privacy. Now, Doctor, I want to play a video, quick video. I hope, just please let me know if you can hear any sound.
With one click and just a short wait, Clearview AI's founder once showed how easy it is to identify almost anyone. His app providing pictures of individuals without their consent.
It's really our belief that the upside completely outweighs the downside.
Canadian privacy authorities pointedly disagree, labeling Clearview AI a tool of mass surveillance.
They are still collecting information from all over the internet, including the images of Canadians.
Clearview scraped more than 3 billion images from social media and other public web pages, building facial recognition technology ostensibly meant for criminal investigations.
Pretty much every Canadian can expect to be in this database, so millions of Canadians' profiles and images.
U.S. law enforcement is said to be using Clearview to help identify attackers at last month's Capitol Hill riot. Here in Canada, privacy authorities found 48 clients had used the technology. They include police from Vancouver to Toronto and Halifax, plus the RCMP. Even the Rexall pharmacy chain admitted last year an employee tried out the app to identify shoplifters.
It's quite clear now that if another company wants to engage in the same kind of behavior, that they're in violation of Canadian privacy laws.
UN Stevens got Clearview to provide images it had collected of her.
It makes me wonder what they can do with my data. I'm also afraid of discrimination. I'm not white. I'm a person who I could potentially be misidentified as a criminal.
Clearview pulled out of Canada last summer. Now the federal privacy commissioner acknowledges he has little leverage to punish the U.S.-based firm and no ability to fine Clearview, even when newly introduced privacy legislation comes into effect. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Awesome. So why I wanted to share that is for you to realize that it's not a joke. It's not a joke at all. Companies are getting into serious problems. Like I said, the CEO of Clearview resigned yesterday because he's not just getting issues from Canada. The US is giving me, like for instance, California is targeting that company seriously. Why? Because they scrape billions of people's faces. And all you have to go is go to their app. Even Apple phone has find that company. You just go, you upload someone's image, and it will tell you where the person is staying, to give you details, personal details of that person, just by their picture. So in today's AI-driven world, trust is very important. If AI is to thrive, people need to trust it. But how would they trust it if there's no transparency? And that's why the foundation of AI is privacy. If there's privacy, there will be transparency. And if there's transparency, it will increase public confidence. But you cannot ignore that foundation. You cannot ignore that foundation. So organizations must prioritize privacy and transparency to build trust with their customers, employees, and regulatory body. Privacy is not just a legal requirement. It's a fundamental component of ethical AI. Without trust, AI adoption will slow down. Organizations will face resistance from users, from regulators, and from stakeholders. Transparency and strong privacy protection help to mitigate these concerns that are related to AI bias, that are related to misuse of data, that are related to unethical decision-making. Companies, like I've been saying, need to embed privacy into AI development to foster confidence in their system. For instance, companies like Apple and DuckDuckGo is a search engine. They have gained a competitive edge by making privacy a core part of their brand. Who will tell you? Sometimes you see they arrest somebody and the phone is locked, and the law enforcement will go to Apple to unlock the phone, and Apple will say, no, we are not going to unlock it. Why? They have made privacy a brand. And it just increases people's confidence in that particular brand. They trust them more. On the other hand, you can look at how Facebook or Meta faced backlash due to privacy scandals with Cambridge Analytica. If you have not heard about the scandal with Cambridge Analytica, please go check it out. So privacy will help to build trust. Adopt privacy by design. Use privacy enhancing techniques. Comply with regulations. In Canada, I'm talking about PIPEDA and CPP and Bill C-23. But in Europe, we are talking about GDPR. And GDPR mandates transparency in AI decision-making. Fortunately, GDPR is not just only in Europe. It applies to any system that is keeping or using European citizens' data. So it cuts across everything. So for transparency too, you think about explainability. Very soon, doctor, I don't think the excuse of black box is going to work any longer, because people want to know why the system is flagging them for something. And I'm so happy, at least I think I heard about Sharp 4. Sharp 4 can help to explain some of those black box phenomenon. So there needs to be clear communication and also stakeholder engagement. And like I said, do your privacy impact assessment. Do your algorithmic impact assessment. It helps to build transparency in your AI system. Now, in the public service, there's something we call AIAA. And the AIA is the algorithmic impact assessment that is mandated by the Canadian government. And if you take all these actions, and you conduct your privacy impact assessment to help you to identify risk before your AI solution is deployed, and if you implement your AI governance policies that help you define privacy and transparency requirements for the business analysts, don't forget these requirements: privacy requirements, transparency requirements. Also, provide users with control. Let your users be able to opt out, or let them be able to manage how their data is used, which is something that Clearview AI refused to do. You can't opt out of the system. And that's why Apple had to find them. Why? Because they were not allowing people opt out of you using their face. Regularly audit your AI systems to ensure compliance and fairness. Now, what is the road ahead? Where are we going to? I've shown you what happened in 2000, in 2004. Now, Bill C-27 is just awaiting parliamentary review and assent. If the parliament reviews it and they approve it as law, but don't just see it as something that slows innovation. No. If you are driving on a highway or on a bridge, there are guardrails on the bridge. Why? The guardrail is to prevent your car from going off the bridge. So these regulations, they are to help you. But I noticed that a lot of people in IT and myself before now see it as this thing is impeding my innovation. No, it's not. It's protecting you. It's protecting your organization. So we've covered a lot today. We've covered about the role of data. We've talked about privacy by design. We've talked about how to implement privacy by design in agile and waterfall projects. Now, let's look at what are the challenges, what are the opportunities as we move on into the future. So as you can see in the roadmap that I showed you, it just shows you the journey of where we are going to. The journey today, tomorrow, and also the future. Where are we now? For Canadians, we are using PIPEDA for now. And it is our guiding principle when it comes to handling personal data. What will happen tomorrow? I am very sure Bill C-27 is going to be enacted as part of Canada's Digital Charter Implementation Act. And it is not just a tweak of PIPEDA, it is a game changer. It modernizes privacy laws with sharper teeth. Now, I know we don't want to hear that because of the fines, but at the end of the day, if we comply, we can avoid some of these fines. For the data scientists and IT professionals, your work will need to be more auditable and explainable. Don't get into trouble. So think about these things ahead of time. For the business analyst, the project manager, it is opportunity or it's a chance to align requirements, strategy, and ethical standards. The road doesn't stop here. AI is developing faster. Also, laws will catch up. The laws are not catching up as far, but they will catch up soon. And sometimes these laws, they can retroactively apply a law to affect a time period that the law did not exist. You don't want to be caught, in that kind of situation. So I hope that, all these things that I've shared make sense to you. 5 years from now, AI systems will be trusted. Why? Because of its privacy safeguards, so that people will not hesitate to use it. For us to get there, we need to answer very tough questions today. Are we ready for stricter rules? Are we building ethics into our code? Are we building ethics into our processes? Are we building ethics into our organizational culture? The future of AI governance is not a distant dream. It is now, and it is being shaped by you and everybody in this meeting, and people in your organization. Privacy, as we've seen, isn't just a part of AI development. It is the foundation because of data. And that is where we are heading to next. So, Doctor, I think I'm done. If anybody has any question, you can ask me and we address those questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for sharing that depth of knowledge and information. It's very, very helpful. Thank you so much. So the floor is open for anybody that has any questions for the speaker. So please feel free to unmute and ask any questions. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. This is Tunji.
Yeah.
I do have maybe two questions, quick ones.
Okay, sure.
Right. So, thank you for the presentation. Very nice one. My first question is around, the example you gave of Clearview, right?
Yes.
If you check Clearview's website, they are doing some amazing things around, solving murders, helping police department, and all of those things. So when we talk about privacy versus innovation, at what point do we draw the line?
Balance.
Because again, if you over govern all of these things, then you stifle innovation. So that's the first question. My second question is also around something around that. Everybody's talking about AI sovereignty. Each country is trying to do its own stuff. We will be in a situation where you will have to be developing applications just for localized just for the local environment versus doing that, like a global application? Those are like my two quick questions, if that makes sense.
Thank you, and thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to find your name. I apologize.
Yeah,
Thank you, Olatunji.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Olatunji. That's a question that is on everybody's mind. So, at what point do we draw the line? We draw the line at several points. Number one, at the point where you're not breaking the law. Because the problem with Clearview, why did Clearview leave Canada? They broke the law. So I know we need to be innovative, but like I said, their CEO resigned yesterday.
Mm.
Why did he resign? The pressure is too much. Apple has fined them. Yeah, Apple has fined the company. California enacted a privacy law just targeting Clearview only. Why? Because we need to balance people's privacy, but balance it against innovation. And I believe that we cannot lean too much towards innovation, that we ignore people's private data and how that private data is used. Because if people don't trust AI, and when I mean people, I mean the large population. Now, who are the people that are benefiting from AI, from Clearview? Police. It's just police. Apart from police, every other person is crying. Every other person the government is complaining, the people are complaining. Remember the video I showed now? There was a lady that requested that all her data be sent to her from Clearview and never be used. Clearview cannot operate in Europe. It's not even going to work. Because they'll be fine that they just close shop completely. So my point is that where is the line? The line, you draw the line when you are not breaking the law. Number two, you draw the line where you are not losing confidence with the majority of taxpayers. I think that's where the line is drawn. It's just like those people that they are doing cloning. To what point do you draw the line when it comes to medical research? Because you can do almost anything. But ethics needs to come in. And that's why you need to ask yourself the question, what I'm doing, is it ethically right? Is it ethically responsible? It might be innovation. I agree. Go and lobby the government to relax the law. That's what you should do. Now, I'm not talking about you, Tunji. I'm just being hypothetical here. So
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that's just my idea of where I think the line should be drawn. And it's not just Clearview. 1 year, you will see some extremely awesome use cases. But we also need to balance this thing. Are we going to go extreme into innovation and forget about people and their rights? So, Tunji, I don't know if I have a perfect answer for your question, but it's an ongoing question. I hope we'll get an answer to one day. But thank you so
for
much.
attempting the question, because I always also think that if I put my stuff online, right, in the public space, I mean, I sort of gave over that control, right? So, anyway.
Yes. I'm sorry,
Depends.
yeah.
Yes.
Can I add a little to what Tunji is saying? So I think I agree. I kind of agree with you because it's if you put your data online, then the truth about it is they are setting privacy consents that we consent to using when we use Google that we don't get to read, right?
Yeah.
We really don't get to read, and we just click yes because we think Gmail is free. But at the end of the day, we are getting these services and trading our identity for these services. Right now, there are like custom AI services on Azure that you can put a celebrity's picture and it will tell you who the person is. So sometimes it gets me asking, did they consent to this or at what point? And then, when it comes down to security, I feel like there should be exceptions because I realize that we make laws and the laws are meant to protect the people, right? But sometimes I feel like we make the laws blindly. So I'll give you a typical scenario of something that a personal issue I'm dealing with. So someone came over to my house, right? and harass my wife. And then she calls the police, and then typical, you know how it is in Canada. The police don't even get to come, but later they call, they take the statement and all that. And I'm like, okay, what are the options? The police say, okay, you can file a restraining order. And then I tell the police that, okay, I would like to file a restraining order, but who is the person? I don't know the person's name. But the police have all this information because they have done the investigation. But guess what? The police are telling you they cannot give you that person's name. So how do you handle that? You know, for me, it doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, I can't even protect myself or protect my family from this same person.
Mm.
So you see, the laws are there, but at the end of the day, are they really protecting us? Right? So
And that's why we are creating business for lawyers. Because,
yeah, so it becomes tricky, you know.
That's when lawyers come in. For instance, the ladies, we have extremely awesome ladies here. And no lady wants you to know her age, but you go to Clear AI, put her picture there, and it tells you her address, it tells you her age, it tells you everything. There's no woman that will be happy about that.
Why? Men too. Let's not.
No, I'm just talking generally. Even if I put my picture on LinkedIn, I did not put my picture there on LinkedIn so that you can expose all my data to people. On LinkedIn, it's just my face. I didn't put my house address. You know, so I'm saying that the line is blurry. The line is not really clear. It's blurry, but as employees, we need to protect ourselves and protect our organizations. You know, so I'm not a lawyer, so I
maybe you should change to be a lawyer.
No, sir. I'm done.
But
it's just AI governance I do. I'm not.
But I can assure you, there's a clear or not so clear view somewhere in India and already developed this.
I am telling you now. I know. I know.
So are we really protected?
Not really.
I don't
we are only attempting to protect ourselves.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have a question. Thank you so much for the session, for the presentation, and opening my eyes to this direction and the impact on whatever I am doing. So I have a few questions there. The whole essence of this and the bills being enacted, the policy is for enforcement or for regulation. Do we have a body that's in charge of compliance? Like the Clearview as a scapegoat you just mentioned. Do you know if I'm very sure many organizations are not even looking in this direction? And do we have a body that is imposing this? Do we have a community via which Canadian government is making people to comply with the details of these bills? More so, I'm also looking at backward compliance. We have existing, like you just said, PIPEDA has been enforced in 2004. And we have Bill C-27, which I think is enforcement is futuristic now. And perhaps that bill is also being updated as we go into the future. How is the government going to, because as at now, perhaps those things they have not breached any privacy policy. But by the time that is enacted in the future, how do we treat the backward compliance? Is there a body? I just want to know if you are aware.
Yes, there's a body in Canada called the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. If you remember that video that I showed, the person in charge of that body was talking. So he's the one in charge of privacy, and he was the one that went directly after Clearview, Clearview AI. So there's a body in Canada now. How much do they publicize what they are doing? That's the part that I don't know, and I don't market for the government anyway. So maybe they should talk more about these things. Maybe there should be a campaign. Maybe they should talk to the policymakers to talk more about this thing. Maybe they should talk about it more in universities for those that are in computer science and all that. There are several ways in which they can let the information filter. Or maybe they are looking for a scapegoat. And when they get the scapegoat, they'll put you on the news. And that one will let everybody be aware that, yes, we've caught somebody. Don't be a scapegoat. But like I said, I'm not a policy maker. So both of us are just talking, but there is a body in Canada that enforces privacy issues, and that is the Office of the Privacy Commissioner.
Yeah, so I also have a follow-up. Thank you for that. I have a follow-up question on that. In the bill C27, do we have anything that has any clause about sharing of data between companies, organizations that regulate that? I mean, I've not read that. I'm just asking if you have a knowledge of such.
Yeah, so IDA covers a lot of things. So IDA is the part of BC27 that focuses on AI regulation. So it covers things like penalties. You must clearly explain how your system is making decisions. You must document how you have mitigated bias and discrimination, and you must conduct privacy impact assessment. When you conduct privacy impact assessment, some of these questions that you are asking are part of what is done in that assessment. So they don't specifically say what should be in your PIA, but there are standard PIA documentations that are done, and that you should comply on now. Like I said, the bill is I've not read the whole bill. It's just the part that I've read that I'm just taking out. So we can go deeper into it another time, but privacy impact assessment is something that needs to be done, and that covers some of the questions that you're asking.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for those questions too.
Thank you. Professor Tolu.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Harry, for that wonderful.
I don't think I want to get a question from a professor, but it's okay.
Yes.
No. This is.
I will answer it for you then.
This is just a statistician asking a question, okay?
Okay.
But for the insightful presentation, you encouraged us to pay attention to privacy and making sure that things are done properly. But a huge burden of doing that, it depends. It really falls on the shoulder of the institution. If the institution or the organization doesn't have a culture that promotes this, then you might just be running against the wall, especially if your boss doesn't buy into it and things like that. So I'm curious, what's your take on the importance of having an organizational data strategy that can basically put out a protocol for each organization to address this? I've also seen a number of organizations come up with AI strategy. How well do you think AI strategy and data strategy should overlap for an organization? Should they be separate? Should they be just the same document or the same policy or processes for each organization? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tolu. I think that AI strategy should be separate from data strategy, but of course they overlap, because like I said, the lifeblood of AI is data, but it should be separate. The reason is because if you see data as a product, it's not only AI that uses data as a product. There are other places where data is used as a product. So I don't think it should be merged together or AI made a subset. It should be separate and distinct, but how most organizations don't even have a data strategy, talk less of an AI strategy, and that is the importance of what you are saying. There is need to have an organizational data strategy. How do we keep data? What is the data retention? All those things are important. I also agree with you that change management is very critical when it comes to privacy. If you are trying to encourage change, if it is not coming from the strategic level of the organization, it is difficult to not just enforce, it is difficult to encourage that form of change. If change is being propagated from the operational level, it will not cascade, it will not even go anywhere. So I agree with you. But what if I am not yet in that strategic level? What can I do? What you can do is to let your manager be aware. I am doing this thing. I'm writing my user stories. As a product owner, you have the authority to write your user stories the way you want to write your user stories. Write your user stories, but ensure that you insert privacy into your user stories. So there are things that you can do from the tactical level. There are things that you can do from the operational level. Then another thing I want to add is that have email trails. Because if there's a lawsuit, most managers will deny you. They will say, no, I didn't ask him to do that. But if you have an email trail where you stated your concerns, that I have a concern about privacy when it comes to this project, I have a concern about the data. If your manager decides to do whatever with that information, it's his prerogative, but at least you stated it and it is documented somewhere that you stated it. So you know that, yes, you are off the hook. So just to summarize, follow privacy by design at your level as much as you can. Have email trails to show that you made certain suggestions or that you identified certain risks. And at your level, try and implement at least from the user story perspective, at least from the sprint perspective, from the sprint planning perspective, and you leave the rest. But I'm letting you know that as time goes on, most people in the strategic level will start getting the memo, especially when a company gets fined or multiple CEOs resign. So I'm not here to advocate for the government, but I hope I've answered it as best as I think I possibly can.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you very much for sharing that perspective of the things that we can do as individuals to protect ourselves, and then the importance of having organizational perspective to that. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a situation in Europe, just to speak to what Prof mentioned. There was a situation in Europe where they were training an AI solution. The data scientists went to get data from the internet or from wherever and introduced it into the AI model. Unfortunately, he did that in Europe. Europe is heavily regulated. And somebody for some reason was just testing something and saw, oh, my data is in this AI system. What's going on? How did it get there? I never consented to it. At the end of the day, when the authorities came, they didn't just come after the organization. They came after the employee too. Now, like I said, Europe is heavily regulated, but the organization didn't cover this guy. They exposed him that he's the one that did it. Now, the organization is going to get fined, and this guy is going to get in trouble too. Anyway, doctor.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Do we have any other question before we wrap
Yeah, I
up?
just want to thank
Okay.
you, Brother Harry, for very insightful speaking in terms of privacy, and it's always my concern about with the AI and the privacy, and it's ever evolving. And what I've noticed that, of course, for highly regulated industries like financial and medical, yes, privacy is key because those are very touchy area that impact and affect everybody in the society. But within the private sector and the not so regulated, it's what I try to wrap my head around is, how it to me it's more of a chicken and an egg. And when I look at like the big tech, like Google, we all interface and all the other big tech in the space. But what the CEO of NVIDIA said sometime last year at one of the AI for Good conferences, he said, we're probably not going to get an end to this because as of now, within the AI space, is a race between dominance and there's governance. So
Yes.
dominance is going to, and dominance and what it chimed in, it's very interesting because it's a dominance. It's more about follow the money. And when we all look at, how the amount of money that flows inside the dominant space versus, how the government can bring about governance and regulation. The gap is, it's just going to keep getting wider and wider. So within regulated space, like some of us work, and I think these are good practices we can, as an individual, as a professional within this landscape, we can inculcate this and put these checks in place for us as individual, and to your point, protect ourselves. But within the overall ecosystem of, the private ecosystem, it's just keep evolving and evolving between the dominance and the governance space. So thank you so much for sharing this insightful talk today.
And my brother, you are very correct. Why did I say so? An organization can look at the fine and say, the amount of money I will make from selling my product is way more than the fine, so I'll get the fine. I'll get the fine. And that is what Clear AI has been doing. They are ready to accept the fine. As in, just go and type Clear AI. They paid 760 million to an organization just to get the data.
My God.
So that company their ethics is not their concern. Their own is just, let me sell to government. And what they are doing, they are selling to big corporations and they are selling to government. Like the police of Canada uses them. Police in the US uses them, even though the government is trying to clamp down on it. So organizations will always weigh the benefit and the risk-benefit analysis. And if the benefit outweighs the risk to them, they will
take the risk.
They will take the risk that, I'll take the risk, I'll bear the fine, whatever happens, I move on with my life, So, but my own point is just that as individuals, let us be aware and let's protect ourselves, because this organization, they don't care about you. They don't care about you and I.
Yeah.
So let's protect ourselves in whatever way we can, and if you have your own AI company, just think about these things.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions before we wrap up today? All right. So we want to appreciate our speaker today. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, and we really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this month's meetup. Please, if there is anything that you have, that you see, that you know that our people need to know, please feel free to share it on our platform. If there's anything that you know our people need to know, please feel free to share it on the platform, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be left behind. We want to be up to date. We want to enhance each other, support each other, and ensure that we are up to date with the AI field that is constantly evolving right now. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll see you again next month for our meetup. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Thank you.